If you would like to support us, you can become our member and get early access to our events and discounts to some partnering conferences. So that's all about us. And now I hope you are all excited to hear about transition from 3D to real-time with Unity. Presenter tonight is Ben Radcliffe. Ben is a media and entertainment technical specialist. There we are, Ben. He has 20 years of experience in VFX, CG, feature, and TV animation. Whoa. He's worked for a variety of top studios, including Dreamworks Animation, Sony Pictures Imageworks, Disney Feature Animation, MPC, and Industrial Light and Magic. He worked as a digital artist supervisor on major franchises, including Avengers and Transformers. In his role at Unity, Ben works with technical decision makers and influencers at K Studios to advance the art and science of visual effects and animation through the use of real-time technology. So Ben, welcome and over to you.
All right. That sounded very formal and very long. One of our people wrote that for me because I couldn't write a bio. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and then we're just going to jump in. Yeah, so welcome. Transition from 3D to real time. And again, about me, I think that intro was suffice, but I'm Ben, technical specialist, and here's my contact info if you guys want to get in touch with me later. benra at unity3d.com, and my social media is at Light and Alchemy. Yep, and like I said, I worked at all these wonderful, amazing places. I was very fortunate, and here's some of the projects I worked on. If you see over here on the right, you see the Polar Express. So if you, like me, have nightmares about a zombie Tom Hanks chasing you with hot chocolate, that was partially my fault, and I apologize. Cool, and I ask everyone, we're doing this over Zoom as opposed to in person. Please embrace the chaos, and I appreciate your patience if we have any technical difficulties. I'm going to do a little bit for people who don't know about Unity, I'll do a little thing about the company. I'll tell you a bit about what we're doing, and then I'm going to go into some of the content that was done with Unity in the media, entertainment, film, television space. And then I'll go over some actual tools and how you can use Unity today, depending on what your role is. And I'll do some future crazy stuff at the end on XR and streaming and platforms of the future. But what is Unity? Unity is the world's leading platform for creating and operating interactive real-time 3D. And here's our mantra. This is a quote from our CEO, is we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it. And I definitely believe that. So what is real-time 3D? And we'll do a little of this because, I was just saying I went to like Annecy Film Festival and everyone's like, what do you mean by real time? And it's like, what we're in right now. But some of our marketing stuff is what is interactive real time is, we believe what is now static is going to be interactive. Content today, whether it be the web or tablets or mobile, it's built for 2D and it's static. And we think the user experience is changing. And basically, I'm just going to riff is, I think we've hit peak phone, we've hit peak tablet. We're tired of looking and scrolling through 2D websites. We live in a 3D world. And at Unity, we believe content of the future is going to be 3D and interactive. So what was asynchronous is real time, and what is 2D is going to be 3D. And this is another thing I want to throw in from our marketing slides is, people always ask me like, what about Unity? What about Unity? What's the difference between Unity and the competitor? Is they always think about our editor, but we're a tech company, and our editor is just one of the main products we do. It's probably, I don't want to say what percentage, but it's not everything. We have multiple software applications we'll get into. We have the Unity editor. We have a full machine learning division. We have a full cloud hosting division. We have voice activation. We have a streaming service. So we are a full-blown tech company. 20 different platforms run Unity, 1.5 million active creators, 53% of the top mobile games. Here's some of the platforms. That's pretty much where we're really special is if there's a device in your house, whether it be a smart toaster or a VR headset or a phone, you could build a game for it or an animation or a film or an experience for it in Unity. And again, half the world's devices have a Unity app installed in them. And we're in 190 countries, 190 countries and territories have creators. We have 45 offices around the world. We have 3,000 plus employees. When I joined a couple of years ago, it was just, I think I was like 1,800. And in the media entertainment space, we won an Emmy in partnership with Disney a couple of years ago, which is cool. And our values: best ideas win, in it together, go bold, users first. And, you know, I think values, and I think we're a company that's about values, about empathy, respect, and opportunity. So I think that's really important. We're a different kind of company, and we kind of like to celebrate that. So we're going to talk about media entertainment, and this is Siggraph, and I think this is a great group. You know, most people think of Unity as a game engine, so we'll talk about the media entertainment space, because, you know, Siggraph is in all spaces. But what that encompasses is film and television, obviously, but it's also advertising and marketing. I'm going to show some examples of that today. People are making, creative agencies are using Unity for everything, whether it be full-on commercials or AR experiences or prototyping ideas. Also events and experiences, location-based entertainment, stadium experiences, going to, you know, chains or theme parks or whatnot. We're doing a lot of stuff in locations and sports. You know, I just mentioned stadiums. A lot of you guys have probably seen, you know, I know Nexus Studios did some amazing stuff with AR recently, but we're also working in sports. We're doing a lot of innovative stuff, whether it be in the field of volumetric capture or 5G, and, you know, what is the sports viewing of the future look like? So we're going to do some exciting stuff in that area. And I grabbed this slide too. This represents my life. You know, I always say this, the slide is: the way media is consumed is changing. I think the way media is created, consumed, and distributed is changing. And I think we've all seen that recently, especially our viewing habits. I think everyone's watching everything streaming. I've pretty much watched all of Netflix. And this one resonates with me because I have a small daughter, and I pretty much watch everything under a blanket on an iPad, so not to wake her up. And we're talking about how Unity, how does a game engine fit into entertainment again? And people always ask me, like, what is the biggest trend you're seeing amongst everything? And it's all about like future-proofing your IP and extending your IP and keeping that IP living and breathing and you know, giving the fans something to be in 24 hours a day. And I think Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Universe is a prime example of that. People don't just want a film. They don't just want a video game. You know, they want a VR experience. They want a comic book. They want a breakfast cereal. They want everything. And I think the world right now is in a competition for eyeballs. So whether you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, or you're a fan of Harry Potter, or you're the fan of, you know, Manchester United or the Boston Red Sox, whether it's sports or, you know, literature or film, you know, we're trying to make, you know, broad, interactive, visceral experiences. Cool. So I'm going to go through just some stuff. This one's kind of old, but I always like to show this. And just one more point, I'm going to put all this whole slide deck on Twitter after I'm done here, so you guys can get these videos and get all this stuff. But Ready Player One, a lot of people don't know, but Unity was actually used in the virtual production of Ready Player One. I worked on it on the visual effects side at ILM, but another company did all the virtual production, which is really kind of exciting. And a lot of the decision making was done at the beginning of it, you know, as opposed to, I've worked on some films like Transformers, where all the decision making is done in the render phase. All the creative is done at the render phase, and every night you're rendering, you know, 10,000, 100,000 render hours. A lot of the camera blocking and decision making was made up front for, you know, building the sets and designing the sets. And I always tell one story. My colleague was on set, and he said that Spielberg was, you know, in his Vive headset, and he kept taking the headset off to drink Diet Coke, and they finally had to, because he was interrupting shooting, they had to put a Vive tracker on a cylinder in VR so he could grab his Diet Coke in VR and keep blocking. But that story blows my mind, where, you know, the greatest director ever is shooting a movie in VR about VR while drinking a Diet Coke. Lion King Unity was also used in the virtual production of Lion King. This being Siggraph London, I imagine pretty much everyone worked on this movie. I worked on Jungle Book, not this one. But again, this was, you know, the world was built in VR, and they shot this in VR like it was like shooting a traditional movie. It was done in Unity. This is a great video. I highly recommend it, but this again will be on Twitter. I like to show this one as well. This is the Coco VR experience. A lot of people haven't tried this, and if you haven't and you have a VR headset, I highly recommend it. But what's special about this is this was actually made by Magnopus in partnership with Pixar, where they took the assets from the film and they optimized them for real time. But the thing about it is it's a collaborative social application, and it's meant so you can become a skeleton, dress up, and go explore the world. But what the Pixar people found is they were actually reviewing this as the characters in the world. So they were running around this, the art directors and the directors, Ed Catmull and what was running around this world of the living dead. And they saw that the opportunity of how do you collaborate over VR and how do you review things. And, that's pretty exciting. And my friend that works there, he said, like on Toy Story 4, they actually looked at the sets of Toy Story 4 from the point of view of the toys. This is Baymax Dreams. This is our, this short is actually brand new, but we've been working with Disney television animation for a couple of years. And they've been exploring, like, how do you reinvent the animation pipeline of tomorrow? Can you just build these living worlds and then film within them, as opposed to, going through the traditional waterfall of like storyboard to editorial to layout to blocking cameras to animation to back to layout, where they're just kind of building these worlds, and they're working with next gen tools such as Tilt Brush, and they're doing concept art in 3D, so you can get a sense of scale and a sense of the world and a sense of the lighting. And these new ones just came out like a couple of weeks or a month ago or something, and they're really great, and they're all done in Unity. And they've got more stuff coming in the future. I put this one in. This is kind of reverse engineering this, but I love this because this is kind of going backwards. This is Cuphead. If you haven't played it, it's a couple years old. It's the hardest game ever. I've been playing it for 2 years and I'm 37% complete. But it's a game. It's two brothers made this game. It's a great indie creator story as well as just a style. Like, two brothers made this game for Xbox, and it was hyped for years and years and years, but they made it in the style of a 1930s cartoon based off of like Fleischer Brothers and old silly symphonies. And it's a game about a 1930s cartoon, but now it's becoming a cartoon on Netflix. Netflix has picked it up. And I'm going to show this one as well. This is a wind up, and this is a shameless plug. This is my colleague E Bing. She made this short. She's an ex-Disney Pixar look dev artist, and she also worked in games on Uncharted 4. But she directed this short animation made entirely in Unity and with a team working remote and collaborating online. And right now it's on the festival circuit and it's up for awards. So shameless plug. We'll take a look at the trailer. Coming to a festival near you. And that's, we were just talking before about like working and doing things in VR, and I actually have that project and I can look at it in VR and it's pretty amazing. This is really special too. This is Fixie the Fox. This is Nordic Entertainment Group, and they're a broadcasting company based in Scandinavia, and Fixie the Fox is their mascot. It's their Mickey Mouse, but they wanted to create an animated series based upon their mascot, and they wanted to be, a regional, local story. These guys are based out of Stockholm, and they wanted a story for Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland in those languages. So, because of technology, they were able to make their own animated series without having to outsource it or send it off, or they don't need, because of the low cost, they don't need to make the millions and millions of dollars of global distribution to have stories for their children and local regional stories. And so they combined game engines, AR-based face capture, they've got a mocap studio, and they use virtual production cameras to, the schedule was crazy. And again, it was made and distributed in 4 languages. And I went and visited the studio in Stockholm last year. And it was interesting because they had, I guess the woman who did the motion capture is a famous actress there. So they had the children there watching on that screen in the studio, and behind them was actually an actress performing the motion capture live, which is pretty wild and pretty fun. And I love stories like that. Like how can people tell their own stories? This is Baobab the Crow. This is another special one too. This is Eric Darnell and Larry Cutler. They were at DreamWorks, and Eric was the writer and director of the Madagascar series of movies. So they've formed their own studio called Baobab to tell new media stories in new ways. And they made this 40-minute VR experience, which is free and amazing. I highly recommend it. But they also released it as both as a VR experience, and they released it as a 14-minute linear animated short, which is on YouTube. And they were able to film that short within this world again. And so, you know, it's because of the power of real time and interactivity that they can just film it like it's a living world and it's a live television. And, you know, you can get more life out of your content. A few more examples. And this is, I have to throw this in, this is Mars Animation Planet. This is Sega's in-house animation studio. And they're really on the cutting edge. They've been really innovating the use of real time in animation. They did some of the first Alembic integration a couple of years ago with their first short, and The Gift. And this is the peak. And what they're doing here is they're really pushing a toon shader look. In Japan, most of the animation consumption, people prefer a 2D look, where this is like a 2D stylized 3D hybrid. A lot of the stuff animating Unity is using our Unity Japan toon shader. We even have a character in Unity Japan, Unity Chan. Ping me and I can send you a Unity project of Unity Chan in our toon shader. So this is where we're gonna get crazy. This is Edmund and Lucy, and I'm gonna get crazy and I'm gonna try and run this real time. Let me see if I can play it. So I was showing this before we got started, but I saw these guys presented this at Annecy Film Festival last year, and I was there. And what's special about this is going to be delivered as a traditional animated series, linear, but it was created in an engine. It was created as a 3D world. I'm gonna take my volume down so you guys can hear me. It's going over the microphone. So what I'm playing here is actually a build. It's an actually EXE, like a game, and it's a build of this animated short. So what's cool about this is actually an EXE build, and I can, you know, go around this world, and this animated short is in here. We've got like great depth of field, and we've got effects flying around. You know, we can do different things like these guys, you know, you can move the characters around, change the blocking. And also they built different environments into here, so we can make it snowing. And I'll show you another cool thing. If you look at the newspaper here, they've embedded the languages into this too, so they can make this for multiple languages. So if you look at the type here on the newspaper, as I'm changing this, it's changing from English to French. Woo. So I'm gonna switch back to my slide deck real quick. I'm gonna kill this. And congratulations to them. They got this, it's in production. They sold a distribution deal, 52 times 12 minutes. But what's really exciting about that is, like, what is the future of content distribution look like? Is it renders? Is it like, we can output frames, we can output EXRs, we can output movies, but maybe it's distributed differently. Maybe it's built as a game. And what I was showing there, like the environments can change, maybe it's regionalized. And I think that's kind of the special thing. You know, like we work with a big name, we work with an agency that makes an app for a big name burger franchise, and they have their app and they do content and they do it in like 200 countries in like 40 languages, and they regionalize the content, and they do it updated quarterly. So that's the cool thing about this, using, you know, a hybrid game technology. Maybe it's distributed on the cloud. Maybe it's distributed as an app on a mobile device. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. But that's the cool thing about Unity and game engines, is you can have all the content living on a content management system. I watch it in Beijing. Maybe the main character is a panda and the language is Chinese. I watch it in Toronto. Maybe the main character is a raccoon and speaking, you know, with a Canadian accent. And that's kind of what's exciting, is regionalized, customized, interactive content. And this is another great one too. I want to show this. This is you know, an example of, you know, just small teams being able to compete and do more stuff. This is IV Studios, and they just did this series of Nike commercials, and they did these all in-house. And I think the first commercial they did in like 2 weeks with a very small team. And the premise was, you know, like a game world, a video game thing. So they looked at using a game engine to do the creative. And it just ended up that they loved the creative tool. So now they're looking to do more projects in Engine. You can see all the different stuff they've done. The actual spots are on our blog and on our website, but it's really exciting things. And this is another exciting one too. This is Pure Imagination Studios. I don't know if anyone has seen these. These are Lego PSAs on COVID-19. Basically, Lego wanted to make a series of PSAs, but you know, it takes months to go through a creative agency and turn around like commercials. So these were made in just, you know, a matter of weeks, and they made tons of them just as a way to do some public services announcements. All right, so that's some of the stuff we've been doing and how we're kind of getting into the different industries. So let's look at the tools, because this is Siggraph and we like to look at tools. So so I made this little chart, and this is, you know, Unity for media entertainment. That's kind of how we call it, as opposed to Unity for film or television, because that definition is always changing. But I put the different things here, like environment RS, pipeline TDE, shaders, layout, lighter, compositing, effects. And you can see how all these tools, I put the tools for you of like, what are the tools that would work in your industry, like, you know, effects artist, VFX Graph, and yada, yada, yada. So we'll take a look at all the cool stuff that I think people from a film or television background would be really excited about. This one I threw in last minute because people have been asking for this. This isn't fit into any category, but this has always been a thing. You know, when are you going to incorporate visual scripting? I hate to code. I don't want to code. I don't know how to code. So we do have visual scripting. We bought a company that makes a product called Bolt, and we were making our next generation visual scripting solution. But this is now free and included with Unity. So download the editor tonight, and you just go to the package manager and get Bolt. So it's visual scripting. You can create logic for games. You can create apps. You can create tools. You can do all kinds of stuff, and it's pretty straightforward. And there's tons of tutorials and content. And I'm working on some media entertainment specific stuff right now. File, how do you get your stuff in and out of Unity? Well, we can take in all major file formats now. Alembic is the standard one. Alembic is, you know, the one, the visual effects industry. But one thing about Alembic is, a lot of people don't realize this. You work in a big studio, you work in an animation studio, the pipeline. Alembic is just geometry, and it's very heavy. And it doesn't have any skeletal information. It doesn't have any material information. It doesn't contain textures. It doesn't contain lighting. It only contains geometry, baked geometry. So we have that, but I think old school is FBX. That's the standard of the game industry, and that has material descriptions and textures, and it has a skeletal description, and you can bring in, you know, real-time skeletons and apply motion capture data. And there have been a lot of limitations to FBX over the years. Autodesk owns that format, like how many vertices influence on bones, and a lot of that's been up. So FBX has kind of taken a leap forward recently. But I think a lot of people are looking to the future for USD. And we do have USD support, and USD supports everything. I mean, it's the next gen, you know, universal scene description format by Pixar, but it's also on the Academy Software Foundation open source list. And it has, you know, Material X embedded now. It has, you know, skeletal USD scale, and it can have lighting information, and it can hook up to Hydra and connect to path tracers. So USD is going to be the format of the future, in my humble opinion. So Photogrammetry Tools, this is one thing I like to share. And again, I put these links as resources for you more than anything that you can go back to and explore later. So I put a lot of links in here for you. But photogrammetry tools, how do you get up and running in a game engine, especially if you're not a environment artist, is we put a lot of assets online, but this is one really great one. It's called Fontainebleau. It's a force by our graphics, our Paris office. And our Paris team went out, they went and did a bunch of photogrammetry and scanned a bunch of assets and built a bunch of Unity assets. And they maintain this, it's on GitHub, and they maintain this to the latest version of Unity and incorporate all the latest and greatest. And they also wrote a white paper on how they made this. And they also built a delighting tool for this. ProBuilder and Polybrush, I love this. These are some of our tools. This is basically what our painting tools is, Polybrush. So you can sculpt geometry, kind of like Maya Artisan, but you can also paint and scatter objects. So it's very easy to start, like to take that Fontainebleau asset, build out a palette of a bunch of trees and paint a lot of stuff. We also have an integrated modeler called ProBuilder. It's a poly modeler and it's very basic. It's for like gray boxing and setting stuff up. And then we have ProGrids, which is our snapping precision tools if you want to get really precise. The video I included here is my colleague Sam. He has the channel Saiku on YouTube where he does a lot of speed level designs where he'll build these magical levels. He's like a 3D interactive Bob Ross, and he's got lots of great videos. ArtEngine, this is a new company. We actually just bought these guys. AI-powered artistry for 3D content. It's basically like an image process. It's an AI-powered image processing and material creation tool. It has some amazing stuff, like obviously, the obvious stuff like seam removal, but in a really great way. As someone, I've spent a lot of time in Photoshop rubber stamping out seams. This is some really smart tools, and it's all node-based and non-destructive. And you can also combine different materials. It's really smart. It's all example based. So you can get, for example, like a cherry wood and a brick wall. And you say like, I want the pattern of the bricks, but with the materials and the colors of the brick, the wood. And it has some smart mutation tools and color transfer tools that really automates this stuff. And it'll do all the, the material creation stuff you need as well, like delighting and normal map creation. And they're doing a lot of interesting, amazing stuff. Here I put our HD render pipeline, or as we call HDRP, and this is our high-end render. Our renderer is actually scriptable, so you can, you don't need access to the source code of the core engine. Our renderers, we have what's called a scriptable render pipeline. We put 2 of them online. One of them is called Universal Render Pipeline, and that goes to all the platforms. But our HD render pipeline is the high-end one, and it requires, like a decent amount of GPU compute and something that can do compute shaders. But the cool thing about this is it's all physically based, and you can put real world light units, lux, lumens, color temperature, what Kelvin is it? And our camera system's physically based too. So you can go on Amazon.com and you can find like a light, or you can go to a cinematography site and you can get what the temperature of the light is and how many light units it outputs. And then you can put that with a camera in Unity and put actually a T-stop or an f-stop. And then you can put an ISO and a shutter speed, and you can see how that light reacts. And you can also get realistic depth of field. So, and it does all the other stuff too. And we have ray tracing, and we have real-time area lights, and we have all the goodies. But I think the physicality of it is really special. Shader graph, for those who want to make shaders. You don't have to code in HLSL anymore. It's a node-based shader. The updates in 2020 are pretty great. You can have custom master nodes. And if you have a custom shader that you've worked with for years, or maybe you've worked with, you've been in-house shader, you can basically recreate those shaders. So it's a seamless transition without having to write code. VFX Graph. This is our next gen GPU-based particles. So GPUs, I don't know if you guys know, that's the whole thing with game engines is, CPUs are very good at sequential instructions. GPUs are all about parallel processing, and the speed gains in GPUs are phenomenal. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the latest NVIDIA demos, but we're now running particles on the GPU, and that means you can have millions of particles real time. And for me, as a ex-lighter compositor who's done some effects, what's cool about this is we have post-processing, which we'll look at in a moment, but it's all integrated. So you don't need to render out your particles, go into Nuke, put some glows and some blooms and some stuff and play with the colors. You have a full HDR, high dynamic range color range right in Unity, and you can make your colors, +5 on the blue and then have a blue glow and see what it looks like with a color correction in ACES with a bloom. Runtime rigging. This is, like I said, like FBX and USD have skeletal information in. So you'll be able to take that skeleton data in and with the motion applied to the skeleton and have it run real time. But we have what's called runtime animation rigging, is where you can put another skeleton on top of your skeleton or just constraints. And you can animate and layer motion on top of motion. So you can have, say you download some motion capture or do a motion capture session, you don't have enough info. You don't going to take it back into Maya, Max, Blender, Modo, Mobu, or whatever. You can just do it right in there. Mesh Sync, this has been around for a while, but this is basically a live link between, you know, Unity and all your major DCCs. So you can make changes. You can actually move your character, your rigs, and your animation real time in Maya. A lot of people will have, like, an animator will have Maya on one monitor and Unity on another, and they'll be able to see whatever they do in Maya, real-time updates in Unity. Timeline, this is our nonlinear sequencing thing. And this is really great because, you know, you can put all your camera tracks, your animation tracks, and you can layer everything in Unity, fully rendered, fully composited with real-time particles, real-time constraints. And you can move it around as opposed to rendering, hitting the render button, going to bed, waking up, sending the movies off to editorial. You know, you can move stuff around, first frame, last frame, all that real time. But also, I think a lot for animation people is sound. I don't think people look at sound a lot. I've never really had to deal with sound, but I work with a lot of animation studios that they're doing like rough Foley tracks. They're bringing in sound effects and they're attaching sounds to game objects. So you can script it. So every time a character's foot touches the ground, it does a footstep sound. Or every time a character, you know, pulls the trigger and fires a gun, it goes pew, pew, pew. And you can do all that sound and have it generated real time, or you could just bring in sound clips and move them and you can export that. So a lot of animation studios do a temp audio track and just then send it off later for full audio. Cinemachine, this is our procedural camera animation system. So you can set up all the cameras in rule-based of like, what is it supposed to look at? You know, to give it some camera shake, give it some follow, make sure it looks at this, but also give it some rules where it has a little give and take. So the point just doesn't lock and follow, and it gives it like a procedural, like a handheld feel. And it has no keyframe. So when you get animation updates later, you know, your characters will still be in frame, and you know, it's great for previs where you're just kind of blocking in scenes and moving it, because you can quickly block in like 20 or 30 cameras and then update the animation later and not have to reframe all the cameras. Post-processing stack, and that's what I was saying. This is like our integrated compositing. It has a lot of tools: bloom, color correction, chromatic aberration, depth of field, film grain, vignetting, because you always need some vignetting. We also have some tone mapping and some white balance stuff. And, you know, if you want to throw like an ACES CG LUT on here, you can see what it looks like in ACES CG or neutral or whatever. But it's really great to visualize this stuff real time in Engine. So like I said, if you go back and change those particle colors, you'll see what they look like all the way down the line, as opposed to kicking them into compositing and waiting till tomorrow and then having to go back and forth. UI authoring. We have just a full set of UI tools because, you know, we are a game engine and games have UI. So we have a whole new UI authoring setup, and you can use CSS and XML or in C# for actions, but you can create both runtime UIs and you can do tools. So you can have tools in here. And then if you're creating, that's one thing, is Unity is a platform for making tools. Maybe you're making a virtual production camera or a virtual production tool or a set dressing tool. You can build your own custom interfaces. I threw this in here as well. This is our Heretic. It's our digital humans package. We basically made our short recently called the Heretic, and we give this guy away for free. So you can, you know, pirate it and cannibalize it, not pirate it, but cannibalize it. And you can grab the eye shader, the skin shader. You can look at the rigs and how we rigged it. And he's a combination of Alembic and FBX. In this, it's just FBX. But you can see how we kind of did all the blend shapes and whatnot. For the short, we actually did all the real-time animation as FBX, and then the cloth, we simulated the cloth in Houdini, and then we brought it into Unity as an Alembic. And I threw this in real quick. You know, this is our graphics roadmap is online. So you guys can go to the site, this portal product board. and you can look at our renderers and our shader editor and our VFX Graph editor, and you can see everything we're working on, where it is, beta, things that are just playing around with. Let's see if we can open that real quick. Boom, we have it open here. So we can see all the crazy stuff we're looking at. So we can go like HDRP, and I've got my font super small. Let me bring that up a little bit. But you can see we have all kinds of cool stuff. Path traced fog, path trace subsurface scattering, ray trace shadows, what's this, colored shadows, custom render API, graphics compositor. That's pretty exciting, an integrated full-on node-based compositor. So that's really fun. All right, let me click on this. Oh, we're back. And then let's go into some boring pipeline stuff, but boring but necessary. Python, we have Python integration because you need it if you're going to work in visual effects. CentOS, we already have Ubuntu Linux, and now we have a CentOS version for CentOS 7. And this is our recorder, and this is what I was talking about is people always say like, yeah, but it's real time. How do I get it out? You can record images, and that's kind of a cool thing is it doesn't have to be 60 frames a second or 90 frames a second. It will record frame, a frame accurate, and you can record movies. But you can also record, like I said, you can record audio, but you can also record motion and output motion. And what's an example of that is maybe you built your own do-it-yourself virtual camera production rig out of an iPad and a Vive tracker or something. Or, well, I see a lot of people building them out of Oculus, the old school Oculus with the 2 Oculus sensors and the old Oculus touch controller, people building it, a lot of stuff. But you can record that motion data, and then you can export it as like an FBX. And we recently joined the Academy Software Foundation. So we're dedicating some of our development resources to the greater community. And this is a lot of the stuff that's all in the Academy Software Foundation. Some of it's mature and already released, and some of it's up and coming, like OpenEXR, ACES, Material X, OpenVDB, USD, Blender. We've also contributed to the Blender Foundation as well. Open Timeline IO, that's an exciting one of like, how do you work with editorial EDL data and round trip that back and forth between the editor and editorial products. Open Subdiv and Cryptomath. So not all of it's coming to Unity. I'm sure it'll eventually, but we're contributing to the technology as a whole for the open source community. And cool, let's look at some XR tools as well. We're gonna do a full thing, I believe November 26th. We're gonna do just a full 1 hour XR deep dive, maybe myself, maybe my colleague who's smarter than me. But I just wanna emphasize that, people think of Unity as a game engine. A game is software. So Unity is really a development platform, and Unity is a software to build software. So people don't realize like TiltBrush is an application that's built in Unity. Tavori, if you haven't played with Tavori, it's an animation filmmaking storytelling tool, and you can see the interface there. It's actually built in Unity. And Gravity Sketch, it's a 3D VR modeling program, and that's actually built in Unity. So a lot of studios use Unity as a development platform to build their in-house pipelines. Like, I know MPC built a set dressing tool out of Unity and a virtual production platform called Genesis out of Unity. And then we have our XR interaction toolkit. We have some great tutorials online for this. And this is our version of like VRTK. So we just have some, presets for, interactions, was it cross-platform XR controller inputs, visual feedbacks, haptics, UIs, camera rigging, locomotion, all that stuff you don't want to code from scratch every time. So we built a bunch of samples for you. So you can really just quickly just start blocking and doing some stuff. On our Learn site, we have this great Learn program. It's a tutorial. It's like an escape room tutorial designed by Oculus. And an editor XR, like add interactivity to any AR, VR app. And editor XR is building tools within Unity and using the Unity editor in VR. Maybe you want to build your world. Maybe you want to do all your layout and your camera in VR. Maybe you want to do your set dressing in VR. So we have some tools here where, spatial UI, locomotion, annotation. So you could work collaboratively in this time, which is really important. Kind of like what I was saying with the Coco VR stuff. AR Foundations, this is our augmented reality SDK for multi-platform AR. And this comes in useful. I'm seeing a lot of tools for animation and virtual production and filmmaking built for iPads in Unity. And what AR, we'll go over this in another talk, but basically it's our abstraction layer. So you don't have to develop for ARKit, you don't have to develop for AR Core or Magic Leap or HoloLens. You can just use our AR, and all the green dots is where it's cross-supported. So we find a lot of people actually use AR foundations because they don't want a development team. Like I said, Unity is a platform for developing software. So people with an app, whether it's a shopping app or something on a mobile device, they don't want a team that does the Android development and the AR and the iOS development. So they'll just do it in Unity and they'll do a full app. A lot of people make just apps in Unity, and it's all about cross-platform development. Mars, let's take a look at this real quick. This is our mixed augmented reality studio, which is really exciting. I'm gonna play this crazy video for you and confuse you.
Well, certainly not the planet, but it really knows this world. Unity Mars gives you everything you need to create powerful mixed and augmented reality experiences that interact intelligently with the real world at any location and with any type of data. Need to visualize a place or product, create a unique experience for an event, train up your staff? No problem. Imagine the possibilities as you author for games, sales, marketing, and more for any device or hardware platform. With Unity Mars, you can quickly capture and assemble real-world assets like locations, objects, and props. Then, just drag and drop them and test on the fly, all without leaving the Unity editor. Unity Mars experiences are powerful, interactive, and intelligent. Build once, then deploy on any AR-enabled device. Get Unity Mars now and shape the world.
Mars is actually really exciting. What it really is, it's like, how do you, so if any of you guys have used AR, one, it's how do you bring your characters from the screen into the real world? And I think Pokemon Go is, the most famous example of successful AR. What Mars does is it creates an authoring environment. So it does three things. How do I define content relative to the real world? How do I test that content? And how do I run that content? So basically a lot of AR experience is just like scan your table, click on the table, put an object on the table, or like an IKEA app where you put a chair in a room. What Mars does is it lets you it basically scans your room and lets you have rules. So if I have a flat surface, which is X big, put a bunch of trees and flowers and bushes and content. But maybe I have a smaller surface that's too small for trees, and maybe it's a table. It'll know the difference and it'll say, okay, it's a table. There's no room for trees. Just put flowers. So it's how you can author content for an unknown set of circumstances, so people can do AR in their home. But it's also an authoring environment. Say, for example, you want to do a stadium-based experience. You could actually take that stadium asset, those blueprints or the details or whatever data you want to bring it in, and then you could simulate and run and author against that data. So you can say like, oh, when people are at this part of the stadium and they do this, you can play, Pokemon Go or Manchester United Go or something, I don't know. But it just allows you to author for the real world based upon rules, which is really, really challenging now. Some really exciting stuff done with it recently. There's a company in the UK that did a Wallace and Gromit experience, which is based upon a unique location. And then they also have it based for the home as well. And there's also a Dr. Seuss app. So kids can learn in a learning app with Dr. Seuss characters in their room on their iPads. So this is some very cool stuff, and we'll go over this way more in depth in November. And this is what I think is really exciting, and why I incorporated AR into this thing is my colleague Dan Miller made this, and he basically made a frictionless motion capture setup. He took ARKit, which is body tracking in the newest version, and he's generating motion capture data based upon video content. And he's recording this content, and he can take it in Unity and retarget it onto characters. That's exciting. So, motion capture has gone from the world of a $200,000 motion capture stage to recently an inertial suit like a Xsense or a Rococo, but now you can just use your phone. And another solution too is this Azure Kinect. Ooh, I forgot to hit play. Oh, and I forgot to turn the audio off. But the Azure Kinect sensor for Unity has all kinds of tracking. And this is a standalone sensor. It's about 300 or 400 pounds. And it's the same sensors basically from the HoloLens, but it's an individual unit. And you can capture body tracking and motion capture data and just bring it into Unity and then apply it to characters. So, that's a $300 motion capture setup. which is cheaper than a, you know, £1,000 iPhone. And then I'm going to get crazy on this real quick. This is the last stuff we're going to look at, is the future of distribution and consumption. Furious. Furious. This is an amazing company. They're part of the Unity family. We purchased them last year. And I'm going to put these links in here for you to try in yourself. But like I said with that Edmund and Lucy, that was an EXR local to my computer, running on my graphics card, running on this. This is our streaming platform, and don't judge it based upon me. This is my personal account, and I set up these experiences. I took some Unity projects and I dumped them onto the streaming platform. So what it does is I'll see if it, let's get crazy. They're doing an event right now and they told me not to use too much bandwidth, but we can basically put these up on virtual machines. And then this is basically running right now. It's queuing up some computers on the cloud. And you can have these pre-warmed and you can have this running, and so you can have instant access to it. But again, this is my personal account. And again, bear with me, these aren't made for, we're getting crazy now. We're going off the rails. So give this a second, but this is, you can put your content on the cloud. So like that Edmund and Lucy, that can live up on the cloud, and then everyone watching it can have that same experience interactively. Let's see what we get here. Here we go. And so again, this is, I'm moving this real time and we can change this. It's working, yes. And I'll give this link so you guys can try it on your own, but you know, we can move around this, we can make them walk. And this is all streaming over the web on a cloud with pretty good interactivity. So you can think about, like, you know, beyond something like a streaming, like a Stadia, like you could have movies that are interactive on here. And I'm changing the light and I'm rotating. Let's go character, what's that? Pose, T-pose, let's go back to walking. Let's go to a close-up. So yeah, this is pretty exciting things here. So I put a couple samples of this. Let's close that out. But yeah, that worked. Yay, I'm excited. I think it worked. I can't see if you guys can see it. But I put some samples for you guys here. I put the Heretic, that Digital Humans asset, and I put Adam episode 1, so you can play that real time, play with the lighting. And I put Adam, or episode 2, which was directed by Neil Blomkamp. So it's a 3D interactive project, and it's really just a Unity project file online that you can kind of play with. And there's this Book of the Dead tutorial, which is a little bit more gamey, but it's a really beautiful, you know, high fidelity forest. Well, and the last thing I want to talk about is Project Tiny, and this is you know, probably a bad venue to talk about it. This is more game space, but I put this here for you guys. Try it with a, you know, scan the code with your phone and your camera, or click on the link. But what this is our tiny runtime. It's an instant runtime. We've rewritten our core engine runtime so we can distribute experiences down to like 200K. So that means you can distribute games basically over the web. You don't need to go through a Play Store. You don't need to go through an app store. You can distribute these anything. So in the future, you know, you can think about, you know, when it's actually distributing a runtime, and it doesn't have the limitations of like WebGL, like the memory limitations, if you've ever done any WebGL stuff. But this is actually given a runtime. So this is kind of like that content of the future. And the example I'm giving you is a racing game, but maybe, you know, and maybe it's not a code like this. Maybe it's just image-based. You know, you can think about a future where everyone's wearing AR glasses. They're walking down, you know, the breakfast cereal aisle, and the cereal boxes become living animated cartoons, and we can distribute those real time, and we can update that content real time without any distribution. And that's pretty exciting. So for those of you who want to learn Unity, we have this real-time animated storytelling courseware. I've been running this. I'm trapped in the home, so I'm running boot camps. I did one recently with the VES, and I'm doing one I think in 2 weeks with Immerse UK. But I'm going to keep running these boot camps. Look at my Twitter, look at my online or LinkedIn, and I've been teaching this courseware. It says 20 something hours, but I've been doing it in 6 2-hour sessions where we kind of go end to end Unity for, you know, visual effects and animation creators, and kind of teaching it from that perspective. So look on that, and I'd love to have you join one of my boot camps. I'm going to keep teaching them as long as I'm trapped in my apartment. Yeah, and thank you. that's everything. I spoke a little fast. It was supposed to go an hour, but I had a double espresso before I started presenting. And here's my contact information. Feel free to ping me, benra@unity3d.com and at Light and Alchemy. And I'm going to dump these slides on Twitter as soon as we're done here. Cool. And that's everything. Did you guys hear me? Did I have audio the whole time?
Yes.
So
Everyone,
unnerving. Embrace the
yeah.
chaos. It's like you're speaking into a void. I don't know.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, man. It was amazing. I hope everyone loved it. So now let's start with some Q&A. Maybe you guys have some questions. So you can just unmute yourself and then you can ask Ben anything about Unity. So don't be shy. If you are shy, you can drop the messages in the chat and I'll read it up. So
oh, there's one there.
yeah.
How much is the boot camp?
Free. Free. It's me. I'm doing it free. This is my goal, my personal goal. My role at Unity has kind of changed recently because I used to go to a lot of studio visits and that's changed. So I'm trapped behind my laptop. So my personal goal is to get at least 2,000 people next year trained in using Unity, making animated content for free. I'm doing it over Zoom. I'm doing it globally. I'm doing it in Nigeria. I'm doing it in Kenya. I did it in Colorado. Random. I'm doing it in London. So I'm doing it all time zones, as many as I can. So please follow my Twitter and sign up for the next one. And if you want, I already have like the video sessions of my last one is on caveacademy.com. And it's free.
It's cool. So guys, anyone have any questions for Davia? Is it easy to transition from Unreal to Unity in terms of technical knowledge and studio pipeline setup?
We don't use the U word at Unity, no. It's always confusing. And then it's funny, I have a bunch of friends who work over there and I got an email from one of them who's named Ben Reese, last year actually from a vendor. She's like, wrong Ben. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a lot, it's the same. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like, I've, you know, done everything. I started compositing on Composer and Shake and Nuke and Maya and Max and Modo and Unity and the other engine. They're, you know, it's similar workflows. I think they have different tools and their graphic stuff, but the core fundamentals are all the same. And there's a bit of a learning curve. It's not a steep learning curve, but you kind of have to think about the way you author content a little bit differently and like a project base and, you know, having everything living in a scene. It's actually taking it back to old school, back in the day, like 2010 CG, where everything lived in a Maya scene, but you had 100 Maya scenes for every shot. Where now everything's living in a Unity project and you have 100 shots on that Unity project. And they're kind of authored the same way. I know that tool as well because I come from ILM and I used both interchangeably.
Cool, questions are popping in. So Roberto asking, is there a way to work with Unity and Unreal in tandem or at least share models files from each store in both engines?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff is authored in both, like all the third-party stuff. Like I know they bought Quixel recently, but the Quixel, you can bring those assets in and it's all about file formats. It's kind of like, it's just like a pipeline, you know, like I know when I was at ILM, we would bring things into Katana, we would bring things into Maya, we'd bring into our in-house stuff, we'd bring it into Clarice. We work with anything and everything anywhere in the pipeline and it's the same. It's just about the file formats and we do all the same file formats. They have their project files, which is different. I don't think there's an easy way to just open a Unreal project in Unity or vice versa. That might be an interesting third-party app someone made, but my friend took one of our sample games, one of our tutorial games from our site, and he rebuilt it in Unity, in Unreal as a learning method for him to learn those tools. And he had no problem.
Nice. Yeah, I think the questions are most around like between Unity and Unreal. So
the two U words always.
Yeah. I think it's a big question these days. Like, yeah, the next one is like Unity is similar to Unreal Engine to learn, or are they completely different? So it's
You
again.
know, I jumped back and forth. I first learned Unreal, then I learned Unity, and the only reason I switched to Unity originally, which now I end up working for the company, is I was working remotely, and the cloud stuff for me was kind of easy. So I was working on my MacBook 12-inch, no graphics card, anything, and I think Unity's a little slimmer and lighter for stuff. But I was working interchangeably on both, and then I would come home at night. I was working in, for those in London, I don't know how to say the last one. I'm American. I'll say it American. Manger. I'd always work in a Pret, and then I would just do stuff and prototype on my laptop, and then I would just upload it to the cloud and come back to my Alienware. And I had both on my Alienware. I had to delete it from this Alienware laptop though, because last time I did a presentation, I had a big Unreal icon on my desktop, and someone called me out.
Oops. All right. The next question is, Unity would work to create content for the new Oculus Quest 2.
Oh my God, yes, of course. I mean, that's our specialty is we are for anything you can think of. Like we're gonna have we haven't supported, someone else is gonna support it, but our Oculus integration is second to none. You know, we're good to go. My Quest 2 hasn't arrived yet, but it's processing. It's coming October 20th. But yeah, it's the same. And you go into Unity, and we'll go over that in November. We can go into some Quest stuff in November. But yeah, you just pick Oculus as your build target. I mean, that's the thing. It's all about build target. So it's like, do I build to? We have a menu, and you just pick. Do I want to go to Mac? Do I want to go to PC? Do I want to go to Rift? Do I want to go to PlayStation? Do I want to go to Xbox? Do I want to go to Switch? And that's our whole thing, is cross-platform.
Cool. The next question is, can ER with webcam work for Unity VTuber, virtual YouTuber application for desktop? Custom real-time animations, model movements for real-time streaming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing real-time VTuber, especially in like Korea and Japan. With Unity, and they have just like an avatar, and you can use there's all kinds of tools out there. You can have a real-time motion capture and Xsense. You can have a real-time body tracking. You can have an iPhone, ARKit, face capture, and you can drive a character real time. Disney actually did it in France. They had like a ladybug character, which they drove real time. But yeah, people are doing it all over.
Great. Next one. When you said before about Azure Kinect, is that with an Xbox Kinect? Can you use it for motion capture in Unity?
Yeah, well, the Xbox, the old school Kinect, I think I have mine right back here. Every time I'm in London, for those in London, what's that store, like something CNET or whatever, CENT or something, whatever that store is when you walk by. And it has all the used cell phones. But every time I see an Oculus Kinect, I buy it. They're all like 20 pounds because they're off the market now. And I'm hoarding them. You do have stuff. You can get like depth information out of that Xbox, the old school Xbox Kinect. And I've done a lot of stuff. What else do I have? All kinds of stuff. I'm looking behind my computer. And I have this Intel RealSense thing. I'll be doing some stuff. I'll be doing like a VFX Graph presentation, I think next month or something online, so check, but I'll be going over how to do input devices. So the thing about the new Azure, it has some smart stuff to it where it actually can do body tracking and put motion data to skeletons, where the old one can just do depth data, where you can drive particles or whatnot through depth data. But it's fun. I have this, I highly recommend this. If you just want to play with particles real time, get this little guy. This is, I don't know, the RealSense 415. It was like 160 pounds, and I can drive real-time particles through my camera, and and you can hook. There's also just the old school Xbox Kinect, which are 20 pounds, but you need to spend 30 pounds on an adapter as well. Nice. How was that answer? I can ramble about that stuff for hours.
Yeah, I don't know, Paris. Do you have any more questions? Anyone has any more question by any chance? Like, this is the time you can ask Ben anything regarding Unity and the industry.
You can ask me about my lack of a haircut, which I only notice when I'm on Zoom calls.
Yeah, it's fine. It's supposed with everyone. I'm lucky. I just put it in the back. So cool. So yeah, that's from Paris. Thank you very much, Ben. My last, oh, yeah. Emily asking how Rococo suit work with Unity.
Fantastic, actually. I'm gonna get one soon for home. So for people who don't know, there's very optical motion capture, which is like OptiTrack or Vicon, which is cameras and ping pong balls and whatnot. But then there's inertial motion capture suits, which have like IMU sensors, like in our phones, in them, and you can wear those, and they're cheap. There's one suit called Xsense, which is I think like 25K, which is really nice. And then there's a lower democratized one. It's a different company in Denmark, where our founders are from, and it's about I think 2,400 pounds or 3,200 pounds. I can't remember America and thing. It's really inexpensive and it's good. I've used it in the past. We went to an animation festival in Paris, in Rennes, outside of Paris, and we had a motion capture suit, and we were capturing people live at the thing, and we had a screen up, and people were, we had a motion capture actress, and it was actually the producer of that Edmund and Lucy short was our motion capture actress. But we had it there, and it does a really great job, and you can record it right into Unity as an FBX. You can record it into their software, which is built with Unity, and you can just target and just drop it on characters. And so we were doing it, and we had someone's daughter was there. She was like 14, and she's like, "Can I try it out?" And we put because it was France, we put we put Daft Punk video on the screen, Around the World, the Michel Gondry one, and she did the dance to the thing, and then we grabbed that motion capture data and we recreated that music video live with a bunch of downloaded characters of robots and cartoon characters of them going around the world. And it's great. It has some drifting issues, it's $3,200 or $2,400 or whatever it is, but it has some drifting issues and might need some cleanup. But if you just want fast, cheap solution, it's phenomenal. And I have another friend to say, like, he's doing outsourced animation, and instead of giving the outsourced animator video performances, he's actually putting the Rococo on, recording it, and then doing some blocking with virtual production. And then he's giving like that 3-dimensional blocking to the animator that says just make it better. So it's a great solution. I love it. Long answer.
Cool. Roberto asking, can Unity with work TensorFlow, PyTorch, and related OpenCV code for emotion and movement prediction?
Yeah, I mean, our machine learning can do that. I think it's Python and Barracuda. I'm not sure about the OpenCV stuff. You'd have to find someone smarter than me in the machine learning division. But if you email me your question, I can get you a more specific answer. But we have a whole machine learning computer vision division. That's one thing for games and also for automated vehicles. So Unity is usually used as a simulation environment for digital twins and training autonomous vehicles and stuff.
Great. Lovely. As Ben mentioned, this presentation will be on Twitter. So just meantime sharing his Twitter account in the chat. Meantime, Paris has a new question. Does Unity support non-PBR workflow? I've recently been learning Substance and don't clearly understand the difference between the two. Is non-PBR just that it won't work well with her lighting?
Yeah, so PBR means a lot of things, and it's for those, I'm a lighting TD, that's a term used in the industry for years where everything's physically based until the next one comes along, and that's physically based, and the old one's no longer physically based, even though we said it was. What I'm saying with physically based is, when you make a light this big and it puts out X amount of light units and it's X amount of temperature, it responds like that. But yeah, you can have a non-physically based workflow. You can break the physicality of it. Like you can up the specular, you can up the diffuse, and you can do things cartoony. And if you want, you could just use our URP. That's in our HDRP. But if you want, you can use our universal render pipeline, which is just a little bit more performant. But yeah, and a lot of people confuse physically based doesn't mean photoreal, and it doesn't mean cartoony. So yeah, and if you want, you can write your own custom render pipeline too. That's non-physically based. My colleague wrote a retro render pipeline that looks like it was a TV signal from 1982. They're just pixels. Cool. That's I want to emphasize that everyone always gets one, like all about it is, you know, we live in London, so I would love that Seurat painting of like, where they're by the bay, it's the pointillist painting, right? And you put all the dots of color, and people get all wound up. It's Nuke. Is it Unreal? Is it Unity? At the end of the day, all we're doing is making red, green, and blue dots on a screen. So it's all about how you make those dots, whether it's physically based and you have that crazy Arnold rendering equation, or it was just red, blue, and green. We're getting a little philosophical there. Sorry.
There we are. Easy busy in it. Cool. Any more question by any chance? Ari says thank you with a big smile. So I'm not sure if you have any more questions. If you can't think anything now, just please email Ben.
Yeah, ping me on
Join
Twitter.
us for
Ping
next
me.
time.
And I think for people asking about the links to the boot camps, obviously
Yes.
it's a future thing.
So
You
future
can
links.
tell us, and we're happy to share, because I know I'm definitely interested. So.
Caveacademy.com.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Or check my old Twitter and my old LinkedIn, and there's links there, or ping me and I'll send you the links to the videos. And you can just go to our Learn platform. There's someone way more professional than me teaching them in step by step.
Cool. We have one more question actually. Do you publish any research papers related to graphics especially?
No, I'm not that smart, but our graphics team does. They do a lot of math and equations. But yeah, we did a bunch of Siggraph talks this year, and we publish papers every year. I don't know, I think on our blog somewhere we have a link to our publications. That's one I wasn't prepared for, but next time I will. But ping me and I can find you a link to our published papers and our Siggraph talks and whatnot.
Great. Thank you. So lovely. Any more questions by any chance? If you can't think anything now, come back next time. We have our next event with Ben on the 29th of October, which will be going around cinematography and virtual production with Realtime. Also, we will have Habib Zargarpour joining us, yes?
And Habib's a legend. Habib,
Yes.
he works at Unity with me. He's an ILM legend. He's a 2-time Academy Award nominated guy. But he basically made the waves in Perfect Storm when waves were impossible, and he made the twisters in Twister when that was impossible. And he made the pod racer in Star Wars Episode 1. He's a legend. And he's the pioneer. He's the godfather of virtual production. So don't miss Habib.
Yeah, come back next time. My last question, actually from you guys, if you would like to just share with us, where are you joining from? I mean, like, are you from London? Are you from Asia, Africa, US, South America? Just write in the chat for us. That would be great. London. London is here. London, Netherlands, Argentina, Texas, Germany, India, Madrid, London, Brazil, Italia, living in London.
I like how you specify that.
Whoa, great.
I'm Italian.
Nice. It's amazing that you guys join us today. So we really have an international bunch of people. So for next time, I'm just sharing a link, the london.siggraph.org. Just follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then we're always sharing this event. So you can already sign up for this for the next event on Eventbrite as well. And it was an amazing lesson, Ben. It was great. Thank you very much for your time and sharing your knowledge. I think Unity is amazing and the future is here. And we hope to see you back next time.
Great. I had a blast. It was great meeting everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening and see you next time.
Bye.